Well, good morning and welcome to 10 with Tom on this Tuesday morning. Hey, it's good to see everybody this morning. And got a busy day scheduled, another day of fun days for youth, and we're wrapping up our final week of kids camp. Things are going well. And so this morning I want to chat with you just briefly about the quiet people. You know, you hear people say something, it's always the quiet ones. I don't know if you're a quiet person or not. You may not believe this about me, but I'm a very introverted person by nature. I'm very quiet. I was the kid that if I wasn't outside playing with friends, I just like to be alone. I like to play games in my room. I was a big football game. Sports Illustrated had a football game where they had cards for all the teams, and I used to play basically solitaire, play team against team, and I loved recreating seasons, doing things like that. Didn't care to be bothered, just loved playing games by myself. So I was kind of a loner, but yet I still managed when people came to the door and wanted to play, okay, I'll go play. But you really had to ask me. I wasn't one who was an initiator to go out and do things. And so I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the people that are quiet by nature, who just simply don't really care if they get involved or not. And so when I go to a lot of social gatherings, you know, I love hanging around with kids and stuff and doing things. I love our game days. But, you know, when I get invited to a party at Christmas time, it's awkward. That's not my thing. If I go to a wedding reception or something, you know, I don't like to be around a whole lot of people. And so a lot of times what happens when I go to something like that is I find the person who's just kind of sitting off to the side because I can relate to them. And it's like, yeah, they don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be bothered. So if we just sit and talk, maybe everybody will leave us alone because they're going to think we're having a good time. And so I've met some pretty cool people like that over the years and have grown to appreciate those quiet people because we can learn so much from them as we begin to hear their stories. You know, a lot of times we live in an age where everybody wants to tell us what to think. They want to throw their opinions down, particularly in this politically charged time. You know, everybody's got an opinion and theirs is right, and so they're going to talk to you about their opinion. They're not necessarily interested in hearing yours. And so for the quiet people, we just really don't care to say anything. You know, just let it go. Let them talk. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to be okay. But we don't want to get in an argument. We just want to keep the peace and go about being our own people. And so it's important to be sensitive to those folks because they really do have a lot to say. And a lot of times they won't say what's on their mind unless you ask them what they think about a situation or ask about the kind of things that really move them. What are the things that they're interested in? And so being able to get to know some of those people can really, really have an impact on your life. You know, I think back to one of the quietest people I ever had to deal with. She was a student at the school where Deb was teaching at the time, and I was coaching soccer. And her name was Nova. She was a fifth grader, and we had a middle school soccer team, but because it was a small school, fifth graders were allowed to play as well. And so we get out there on the soccer field first day of practice, and this little girl Nova shows up, and she's very quiet, and the ball comes to her, and she kind of runs away from it. So not only quiet, but also timid. No sign of aggression whatsoever. But we played everybody, and we'd get into the games, and the ball would come to Nova, and Nova would kind of run the other way. And it was like, this is going on all season. And I'm like, I hope she's having a good time. She doesn't say much. She laughs a lot, but I don't know where this is going. And so we get into a game against the Pennsylvania Deaf School. And even though kids were in this inappropriate grade range with us, a lot of the kids at the deaf school were a couple of years older than our kids per grade level. And because they had kids up through 9th grade playing, they had some kids that were like 15, 16 years old on their soccer team. Nova was 10, okay? So you got these big guys and this little girl. And these big aggressive guys that are, let's go play soccer, and they had a good soccer team. And this little girl who is just quiet and trying to stay out of the way. And so we're playing the game, and as fate would have it, the ball comes toward Nova near the sideline, and as she's trying to run out of the way, one of the kids from the deaf and blind school comes plowing into her and just flattened her. Well, Nova jumped up, and it was the first time I had ever seen any aggressiveness out of her. but she jumped up, turned around, and just took a swing. Didn't come close to hitting anybody, but all of a sudden it was like a light bulb went on. And she started going after players, going after the ball, and she became one of the best players on our team. But it was somebody flipping the switch to get that quiet person to suddenly, turn into Wonder Woman and get her going. And I'll never forget that it took that initiative of some kid who didn't even know what he was doing, just ran her over to really flip the switch in her. And so, I learned never underestimate those quiet people, because when they're ready to go, and they're going to have an impact. And so the devotional that I'm reading today talks about some things that we can do to get to know other people. And I thought they had some good advice. I want to share that with you before we close for today. When your extended family gets together, seek out the quiet relative and find out what he or she has been doing and what are the things that they like, what have they been reading, what are they learning. Get to know the quiet one, and that'll have a great deal of impact in your relationship. And it makes it a whole lot easier than hanging around the people that are boisterous all the time. And connect with somebody. I've always had that thing for connecting with the quiet people in my own family. Hanging out with the cousin who doesn't talk a whole lot, or just connecting on that very quiet basis. I don't really like to be the life of the party unless I have to. Secondly, say a few kind words to the checkout clerk the next time you're shopping. When you ask them how their day's going, or encourage them a little bit and tell them what a great job they're doing and how much you appreciate them being there. Boy, sometimes they're just in that boring job where they're just scanning things all day and throwing them in bags, and it's got to get boring. Right? But when they get a chance to actually engage with somebody, you get to see their personality, realize that they're real people. They're not robots. They're not just there to serve. They have a life. And so, encourage them about, hey, I hope you have a great night when you get off. When's your next day off? I hope you have a great day. Ask them about a product that you're buying. Have you ever tried this? Is it any good? Get to know some of those people. We've got to know some of the people at Walmart by name. And they're great folks. We love them. And because we've got to know them, we love them more. Okay? Next, avoid dominating the conversation with an introverted person. Ask interesting, open-ended questions so they can talk a little bit. Something that can draw them out of their shell and also shows that you have an interest in who they are. Don't just throw out a whole bunch of rapid-fire questions and yes/no questions, because it's not going to go anywhere. But ask them, hey, are you reading anything interesting? Because I'm looking for a new book. Do you have any good book recommendations? And they can begin to share on stuff like that. Because when you do that, you're saying right away, I value what you have to say. Right? And even sometimes when you open a conversation like that, if you share something you're looking for, they're going to open up a little more because you've opened up a little to them. Another thing, look for topics or activities that seem to interest the other person, such as a certain sports team or a kind of book that you like to read. You get into the different genres of books. So those are great ways to start conversations. And maybe even invite that friend to do something with you, whether it's coming to youth group, coming to a Bible study that you go to, going over to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, but just something, again, showing a little bit of interest, get to know them. All right, so just wanted to share those with you today. Make a new friend. Now, I also wanted to mention, in the little bit of time we have left, I want to say thank you to the group that's been working with the 9. For those of you who don't know, the 9 are a group of students that participate every week with our kids camp. And they've been helping us out. The reason they're called the 9, there's 9 of them each week, and the names rotate. But they've been doing a fantastic job. And so I want to say thank you to them because we couldn't do the things we've been doing this summer without them. And they have done all kind of stuff. They've been leading Bible times. They've been leading games. They've led some music stuff. They've even led Bible lessons and science lessons and all kind of stuff. They've been a great help. They've been here early to get things set up. They've stayed late to get everything torn down and reset for other things. And so if you're a part of the 9, thank you guys so much. We've loved it. Wanted to let everybody know that our last 2 game days of the summer are coming up today and Thursday from 10 to 4. So if you're in the area, come on out and join us. We're going to have a great time. We still got a lot of water balloons left, and so we'll keep using those. But I love you guys. I hope you have a terrific Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday on 10 with Tom.